Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm very honored to be taking part in the community's annual learning of Pirkei Avos in honor of Dr. Abraham Stern. I'm here in Borenstein's back garden, social distancing, but as close as possible, I guess, to shul, where this would normally be taking place on Shabbos. But when Rivki asked us to take part, even from during this age of Corona, it feels very special and very honored and privileged to be taking part. I also want to, at this point, say that obviously our thoughts are with Rivki and Josh and the entire Lamb family after the passing of Mrs. Mindy Lamb's Zichron Livracha, and our thoughts of the whole community, even though we can't be with you physically in person, our thoughts have very much been with you during this week. So in the second parak of Pirkei Avos, the second parak picks up from where the first parak left off, and much of the parak is dedicated to the statements of different Tanaim. But what's interesting is that the statements are laid out. We also have the chain of Masorah laid out. We have, each Mishnah, the first parak of Pirkei Avos began, Moshe Kibel Torah Sinai Masorah Yoshua, the chain of transmission all the way down to Anshe Knesset Hagadola. And then each Mishnah, it is described, this Tana received the tradition from the previous Tanaim, and this is what he said. And each Tana, we are told the chain of transmission through the early Tanaim, through the later Tanaim, and this trend continues all the way through to the middle of our parak. And in the middle of the second parak, we're told that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is the student of Hillel and Shammai, and then we're told that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, in fact, has 5 students. Now, what's fascinating is, even though the way this is presented is as one unbroken chain of Masorah, which of course it is, the Torah is a continuum that passes, from Rebbe to Talmud, from generation to generation, as well as this continuum of Torah transmission, this moment that is being just captured here is actually a moment of tremendous rupture for the Jewish people. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, again the student of Hillel and Shammai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is the Tana who was there and present and had to lead the Jewish people at the moment of the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, the end of the Avot of the Beis HaMikdash. It's the time of the end of the Sanhedrin. It's the time where we're exiled from Yerushalayim. So even though what's happening, the Mishnah is presenting the continuous chain of Masorah, what's actually going on in the background is a moment of tremendous rupture. And it's with this background that I want to approach the Mishnah, which says Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai himself, the leader, the Tana who led the Jewish people when the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, we are told that he himself had 5 students. And here I quote a colleague of mine, Rabbi Joe Wolfson, who is the rabbi, who is the head of the JLIC on campus, the OU's learning initiative for students on campus. Rabbi Joe Wolfson is the rabbi at NYU, and he pointed out a fascinating aspect of this Mishnah, talking about the Talmidim of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. The Mishnah describes 2 of them. It says that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai has 5 Talmidim, and it says each of them the specific attribute that they had. But what's interesting, 2 of them are described using the image of water, but in very different ways. The Mishnah says that Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai would say that Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus is like a bar sud she'eno ma'abe tipa. He is like a plastered pit of water that doesn't lose a single drop. In ancient days, when one had to, if one imagines like storing water, but as well as there being natural water and being natural wells, people would dig cisterns and store water there. But you had to make sure the system was plastered so that the water wouldn't just drip out into the earth. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus, he is the plastered pit who doesn't lose a drop of his learning. That is the first of the students, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus. The last of the students, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, he is described also with the image of water, but he is described as a Mayon Hamisgaber. He is described as a stream or a fountain that is growing ever stronger. And that is the description that we use for Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. And it's fascinating to see that both are described in terms of water, but they both represent very different things. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus represents the idea of receiving the Torah, and he's the Bar Sud She'eno ma'abe tipa. He makes sure to hold on to every drop of Torah that he receives from his Rebbeim. There's even a statement in the Gemara Sukkah where it says, Rabbi Eliezer said, I never said a single word that wasn't learned from my Rebbeim. Rabbi Eliezer ben Hyrcanus is holding on to the Masorah and holding on to the traditions he's received from his Rebbeim. Rabbi Elazar ben Arach is the Mayon HaMizgaber. He is the source of life. He's the source of new water, the source of new Torah, the source of new Chidushim. And what Rabbi Wolfson said is that we can understand this in the context of what's going on at the time after the Churban. On the one, we're talking about the generation of students, the first generation of students to be learning Torah after the Churban, after the Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, as we're going into exile, as we're leaving Yerushalayim, we don't have the Sanhedrin, we don't have the central authority, this tremendous political, theological crisis, this moment of tremendous difficulty for the Jewish people. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Horkinus says, we now need to be a Boris Sud She'ena Ma'abei Tipa. We now need to make sure that all of the Torah and all of the spirituality and everything that we had, we need to make sure we hold on to it. We can't lose a single drop of that Torah. And Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch says, yes, but as well as that, we also now need to redouble our efforts and be a Mayan HaMizgaber. We need to be producing new water, new Torah, new Chidushim, to be spreading Torah, to be a source of vitality and a source of life. And it's these two reactions that are captured by these two students of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, both sources of water, both sources of Torah, but one preserving every drop that they've received, and the other one the source of tremendous vitality, originality in the transmission of Torah. We now, as this is being sent out over this weekend, we'll be celebrating Rosh Chodesh Iyar, and I always find that these 2 weeks, these few days around Rosh Chodesh Iyar, always, we actually capture very similar emotions to this dichotomy. This week we had Yom HaShoah, and this coming week we'll be having Yom HaZikaron. And those days we remember those who were killed in the Holocaust, the Kehilos HaKadoshim, the entire communities that were wiped out. And as we remember those communities, and as we remember the soldiers in the state of Israel, we are called to be a Boris Sud She'ena Ma'abei Tipa. We are called to be a cistern who holds on to every drop of to remember every life. We are called to remember what life was like in these communities that were wiped out. And we're called to be a Boris Sud She'ena Ma'abei Tipa, to hold on to all of those memories and to make sure that they aren't lost, and that we remember our Chayalim and our communities. But we also, as well as having that experience at the beginning of Iyar, we also will have, please God, Yom Ha'atzmaut, and later on Yom Yerushalayim, where we celebrate the return to the state of Israel, the flourishing of the Jewish people who've been gathered in Me'arba Kanfus Haaretz, celebrating the reunification of Yerushalayim. And that is where we follow the approach of Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch of a Mayan HaMizgaber. We say, this is a time of tremendous transition, but a time in which there's such tremendous vitality and originality has come out from Israel, and it's flourished in ways nobody would have predicted. And that is the emotion that Rabbi Elazar ben Aruch is calling us to express as well. And so these weeks of, as my wife likes to call, the Yom season, Yom HaShoah and Yom HaZikaron, and then Yom Ha'atzmaut and Yom Yerushalayim, we have both of these. We have these expressions of Torah, these expressions of water, both expressed. We have to be a Boris Sud She'ena Ma'abei Tipa. We have to hold on to the memories of the communities and the soldiers who've given so much and who all died al Kiddush Hashem. But as well as that, we also celebrate the incredible Mayan HaMizgaber that is the modern state of Israel, and that is Yerushalayim, a source of tremendous inspiration, of ingenuity, of tremendous resurgence in Torah learning, of a society, Baruch Hashem, of millions of people that is flourishing and thriving. And B'ezrat Hashem, through that we can hold on to both of these emotions and be able to do our duty, both to be remember the past appropriately and to celebrate the tremendous vitality and B'ezrat Hashem hope for the future. Good Shabbos.